Hoshimiya Ichigo is one of Aikatsu's most beloved protagonists, and today we'll be breaking down the motivations and experiences that make her character so iconic. This is a thorough deep dive containing spoilers for the entire original series, including the 10th anniversary movie Starway to the Future. If that's okay with you, let's get started. When we first meet Ichigo, she is an average middle school student who helps her mother, Ringo, run their family-owned bento shop. Their shop is tightly woven into their local community, and she enjoys meeting and interacting with new people. She is an older sister to her brother, Raichi, who loves idols and takes responsibility for looking after him. She is influenced by her father, Taichi, who is an explorer seeking to bring happiness to people through food. He is usually away on expeditions, but is still an attentive parent when he is home. Because of this, Ichigo's family is very tolerant of time spent apart from one another. They see these periods of distance from each other as a natural part of growth. Ichigo's family is also very supportive and loving. They value entrepreneurship, ambition, and happiness. They are generous toward their neighbors and express love and creativity through cooking. Ichigo admires her parents and takes after them in both personality and interest, to the extent that she dreams of carrying on the family's bento shop business. This dream changes when Ichigo falls head over heels for top idol Kanzaki Mizuki. She was originally introduced to idols through her best friend Aoi in 5th grade, but didn't develop any interest in them. Her interest only begins after attending one of Mizuki's concerts and becoming enamored with her. Her strong feelings of admiration mark the first time she's experienced true passion. After learning that Mizuki is a student at the local idol school Starlight Academy, Ichigo decides to take the Starlight Academy transfer exam. She ends up enjoying the idol training that Aoi gives her and becomes determined to see her effort through the end. During her audition, she discovers her passion for performing in front of an audience and pulls off a miraculous special appeal. This catches Mizuki's attention, who assumes that Ichigo is an experienced idol. Her advanced performance earns her acceptance into the school. Starlight Academy is a boarding school that doubles as a talent agency. It typically accepts less than 10 students per entrance exam. This low acceptance rate is because the school emphasizes pre-existing talent rather than raw potential. And this preference for pre-existing talent is because the school invests a lot of resources in each student that it accepts, including housing, training, finding work, sponsoring events, and building industry connections. Students are expected to self-produce or self-direct their own idol careers with assistance from teachers and the administration. Because of this, Starlight Academy is filled with internal competition and fosters a cutthroat competitive environment. This competition is most evident in the Starlight Queen Cup, a tournament in which students compete to be crowned the school's top student. After starting at her new school, Ichigo quickly finds herself at odds with the competitive environment of Starlight. She is focused on admiring Mizuki and having fun with Aoi, so she doesn't pay much attention to formalities. She greets her new environment with open arms, and her excitement keeps her distracted from any potential concerns. Ichigo's open attitude is challenged when she suddenly has to compete against Aoi for an audition to become Mizuki's manager for a day. Although she isn't a competitive person, she values hard work and takes others' expectations seriously. This seriousness, stemming from her responsible nature and diligent home life, allows her to give the audition her best effort. When Ichigo loses to Aoi, she is disappointed because she wants to interact directly with Mizuki. However, she is once again able to pull from her family's strong values and resolves to do her best despite any difficulties she encounters. Despite her good intentions, Ichigo is still motivated enough by jealousy to stow away on Aoi's manager for a day experience. She only gets away with this because Mizuki is personally interested in her. After spending the day shadowing Mizuki, Ichigo realizes that Mizuki is not only much more well-rounded and talented than she'd imagined, but that all of her success comes from intensive training. Ichigo then understands that being an idol is a real job. From this point on, Ichigo decides to hold herself to Mizuki's standards. Thanks to her deeper understanding of Mizuki, Ichigo is now able to identify and work through her own weaknesses. After falling during an audition and feeling embarrassed, she starts running to improve her strength and coordination. When she fails to get along with her more experienced classmate Ron, she avoids her and resolves to work harder to improve herself. Critically, Ichigo overcomes these struggles through her openness to others. Running makes her physically stronger, but when she meets a fan who is inspired by her perseverance, it teaches her that her performances convey emotions to her audience. When she reaches her limits, Ichigo thinks of Mizuki in order to push through. And although Ichigo tries to avoid Ron after being criticized by her, Aoi reminds her that she has a responsibility to her classmates to cooperate with Ron. Listening to Aoi softens Ichigo's resistance to Ron, who is then able to teach her how to appreciate her role as part of a larger team. Along the way, Ichigo also receives advice and support directly from Mizuki. With these lessons learned, Ichigo becomes a more effective problem solver. She diffuses tension through her earnestness and is able to ask for help even when she's flustered. She understands that she needs to respond to people seriously even if she doesn't know what she's being serious about. In most situations, she tries to understand and appreciate others. When in doubt, she uses Mizuki as a guideline for what she should do. Ichigo is still worried about holding others back, but no challenge is too big to intimidate her at this point. As long as there's an action she can take, she'll push through. And when she finally gets her first premium dress as a reward for all of her effort, and she sees that Aoi and Ron both have faith in her, she feels confident that everything will be okay as long as they work together. With her faith in herself and her cooperative ideals established, Ichigo starts to become stronger. She meets Hitomi, and Ichigo, Aoi, and Ron all develop their shared work ethic in the process of befriending her. Ichigo commits herself equally to her training and her friends, always finding new ways to improve her skills and help out her fellow students. By the time she leaves Starlight Academy's Christmas party prep team and harvests a giant tree just to cheer up a classmate, her competence and compassion have earned her popularity with both her peers and the public. But just as Ichigo starts to become proud of her idol status, Mizuki's previously supportive attitude toward her becomes much colder. Ichigo's passion for her friendships has made her a uniquely strong force that clashes with Mizuki's isolated position as top idol, especially since Mizuki herself has begun to feel pulled in by Ichigo's warm spirit of cooperation. When Mizuki invites Ichigo to perform at her concert, Ichigo starts off excited as usual. However, Mizuki's coldness takes her by surprise. Mizuki's world is noticeably more adult than Ichigo's, and the gap between them demands Ichigo's full attention. Her friends support her through Mizuki's advanced training, and Mizuki pushes her to the point of finally admitting that she's frustrated with herself for failing to meet Mizuki's expectations. Mizuki confirms that this frustration is what she was lacking before, and it's clear that Mizuki is just as motivated to form Ichigo into her own rival as Ichigo is to reach her level. Thanks to their training, Ichigo and Mizuki both surpassed their previous limits at the concert. Their bond has been strengthened, and Ichigo receives a popularity boost after performing with the top idol. She is able to discover and work through new weaknesses like being bad at variety shows, being unsure of her aura, and mentoring her underclassmen. Ichigo also deepens her relationships with Aoi and Ron while meeting new friends like Yurika and Sakura. She proves herself to be willing to jump into action in real danger and stand up for her friends even in family disputes. Despite these fierce qualities, she still dreams of settling down in a quiet place one day. Even as a popular, active character, she is always shown to be driven by love for her friends. With these new relationships solidified, Ichigo's core conflict begins to reveal itself. The Fresh Girls Cup arrives as a chance for Starlight Academy students to compete directly with Mizuki, the Starlight Queen. Ichigo, Aoi, and Ron train for the competition together, and they are the only students to make it to the semi-final round of the tournament, with Ichigo being chosen as a finalist. Ichigo believes that she is ready to become Mizuki's equal, and Mizuki begins to seriously consider Ichigo as her long-awaited ideal partner. When the final round of the tournament arrives, Mizuki tells Ichigo that she is considering her as a potential partner and wants to see her at her full strength. She even grants Ichigo the advantage of using a premium air dress against her, assuming that this will ensure her victory. Despite this advantage, Ichigo fails, and Mizuki delivers a crushing performance that drives home the gap that still remains between them. Ichigo and Mizuki both feel deeply affected by this result, but Mizuki still believes that Ichigo will be able to reach her level even if she isn't ready yet. Although neither of them realizes it at this point, Ichigo's close bonds with Aoi and Ron have already become a barrier between her and Mizuki. Before the final round, Ichigo credited her friends with motivating her, and as soon as they were no longer competing alongside her, she was no longer able to progress in the competition. This theme will continue to be built on throughout the rest of the series. Ichigo is noticeably more self-assured after the Fresh Girls Cup. She knows what she's doing and isn't confused about idol concepts, but still retains her straightforward enthusiasm for her work. If she isn't running headfirst toward a challenge, she's listening to others when trying to learn from them. She becomes the muse of her favorite brand, Angel Sugar, and continues to grow her popularity. Despite her failure at the Fresh Girls Cup, Ichigo still dreams of becoming Mizuki's partner. After spending so much time getting to know her, she understands that Mizuki is secretly very lonely. Ichigo's natural desire to help others extends to Mizuki as well, and she commits herself to following Mizuki in order to resolve her loneliness. Meanwhile, Mizuki has clearly become impatient with her peers and holds an audition for a 3-member unit named TriStar that will grant her 2 partners rather than 1. Nearly the entire school participates in the audition, and when Ichigo notices that Mizuki is still unimpressed, she acts even more boldly while other students complain. The audition is interrupted by a new competitor for America, Kaede, who reveals herself to be even stronger and more experienced than Mizuki's criteria demanded. Ichigo and Mizuki are the only people who are excited about her arrival, and Ichigo admires Kaede's ability to entertain her audience despite the competitive atmosphere. Unsurprisingly, Mizuki selects Kaede as a member of her unit and decides to hold a callback audition to choose the final member. Aoi, Ron, and Ichigo are all selected as candidates. As competitors, they are separated before the audition and prevented from communicating with each other. This has a debilitating effect on Ichigo, who becomes restless and lonely despite acknowledging that Aoi and Ron are probably training while she wanders aimlessly. The callback audition mainly consists of a live broadcast interview, in which Mizuki is looking for the person who has the highest inability to fail. During her interview, Ichigo is flustered until she grounds herself by thinking of Aoi and Ron. She says that she wants to make them proud and that they're the one thing that she has absolute confidence in. Finally feeling motivated, she enthusiastically tells Mizuki that she'll become the sun to Mizuki's moon. After a final performance, Ron is chosen as the final member for her professionalism and ability to shine on her own. Both Aoi and Ichigo are immensely proud of her and encourage her as she leaves to immediately begin working as a member of TriStar. Although Ichigo and Aoi are genuinely excited for Ron, they can't help but be disappointed by how difficult it's become to get in touch with her. TriStar is extremely busy and leaves Ron with few opportunities to text her friends, never mind see them in person. Ichigo becomes particularly lonely without Ron around. Despite this loneliness, Ichigo and Aoi have both become even more popular thanks to their performance in the TriStar audition. Headmistress Orihime offers them the opportunity to form their own unit, which they accept. They name their unit Soleil after Ichigo's desire to become the sun, and text Ron about it so she can be the first to know about it without being interrupted at work. Unfortunately, this only drives home the feeling that they are drifting away from Ron, so they also make efforts to leave gifts with her manager when they cross paths. The Soleil debut announcement is underway when Ron suddenly appears and tells them that she's left TriStar, or more accurately that Mizuki has dismissed her from TriStar because she could tell that Ron would be happier with her friends. With everyone assured that this departure was amicable on all sides, Ron officially joins Soleil and reignites Ichigo's confidence. As a three-member group, Aoi and Ron decide to make Ichigo their leader for her passion, supportiveness, encouragement of others, natural talent, and strong resolve. Despite being a unit initiated by Orihime, they lack the resources given to TriStar and are forced to overcome obstacles organically to build up their own fanbase. They succeed thanks to Ichigo's passion for connecting with others, and Ichigo in turn draws her confidence from Aoi and Ron's support. Once Soleil have proven themselves as a popular and professional unit, they earn a spot in Orihime's next plan, Star Anise, a temporary unit that will combine TriStar, Soleil, and the independent unit Paopao Purin. After some logistical negotiations, the 8-member group begins a summer concert tour together. They prove to have great chemistry, and Ichigo adores the camaraderie she feels amongst her fellow group members. She especially cherishes the opportunity to perform alongside Mizuki again. As the tour begins to wind down, Mizuki reminds everyone that they will soon resume individual activities. Everyone takes this shift in stride except Ichigo, who is alone in her desire to continue the tour with Mizuki forever. When she tells Aoi that it feels like Mizuki is setting off on another long journey, Aoi suggests that she should be proactive as well. Ichigo goes to Kaede for advice, whose stories about America's challenges inspire her. After talking to Kaede, Ichigo is able to come to terms with the end of the tour and thanks Mizuki for helping her appreciate their individual activities again. She decides to move forward and challenge herself, which Mizuki approves of. The next time they get a chance to talk, Mizuki tells Ichigo that Star Anise helped her feel less lonely, and they agree that they'd like to be together again someday. However, Mizuki also tells Ichigo that they shine in different ways, and that Ichigo hasn't caught up to her yet. Their partnership is once again left as a goal for Ichigo and an anticipated outcome for Mizuki. At this point, Ichigo learns that her mother, Ringo, used to be an idol, and not just any idol, but a member of legendary duo Masquerade, and the partner of Headmistress Orihime. The implications of this are left vague, but it's hinted that Orihime, Mizuki, and Angel Sugar's top designer, Asuka, all had at least guessed the connection between Ichigo, Ringo, and Masquerade. This reveal helps to explain Ichigo's parents' supportiveness, as well as the compatibility between their family values and the qualities needed to succeed at Starlight Academy. While environmental factors were a major help to Ichigo, she is still grateful that she didn't know about Ringo's past, and could discover and fall in love with idols in her own way. She says that without that experience, she might have given up on becoming an idol. With the Starlight Queen Cup around the corner, and all of her friends moving on in their careers, Ichigo is left to wonder what would make her happy. She loves her friends and loves being an idol, but she wants to feel even more passionate and excited about her work in order to continue pursuing Mizuki. She asks Kaede for advice, remembering her stories about America's harsher entertainment industry, and finds her new direction. Ichigo makes it to the final round of the Starlight Queen Cup, and Mizuki chooses her as her challenger, but Ichigo doesn't believe that she has a chance of winning. Instead, she plans to leave Starlight Academy and go to America in order to experience the increased competition and part-time jobs that the American entertainment industry demands. Her family and friends are supportive, and after the news gets out, even Mizuki knows that Ichigo is leaving. They say their goodbyes before they face each other on stage, and after Mizuki wins, she whispers to Ichigo that she is leaving Starlight Academy as well. Ichigo's friends rush her to the airport and tearfully say goodbye to her, and then she leaves for New York to begin a new adventure. Typically, this would be where we follow the one-year time jump to the next part of the story, but we actually know a lot about what Ichigo did during her time in America. According to an Animage interview with series director Riichi Kimura, Kaede gave her skydiving equipment to Ichigo as a farewell gift in episode 50. Ichigo left Starlight Academy near the end of September, and in October she used that skydiving equipment to land in the middle of an American audition program just like Kaede did during the TriStar audition. This surprising appearance made her a household name in America. In November, Ichigo made another surprise appearance at a Ringling Bros and Barnum & Bailey circus show in Virginia's Richmond Coliseum. She wore a tiger suit and jumped through a ring of fire, increasing her popularity even more. In December, Ichigo served as a human star on top of the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree in New York City. The article lists dates between November 30th and January 6th, but it's unclear if she made one or multiple appearances there. The next article written about her places her in Florida's SeaWorld Orlando in the spring. She had seen a TV program featuring wild orcas and expressed a desire to swim with them. Because this idea was too dangerous, she settled for swimming with a captive orca named Thomas instead and began special training for it. Her training started in June, and she spent a month caring for Thomas and building up trust so she could finally swim with him in July. As a side note, Blackfish, a documentary covering orca abuse and safety concerns at SeaWorld, was receiving massive media attention at the time that this orca storyline was created in 2013. The documentary did not appear to receive the same amount of attention in Japan, potentially because of limited distribution there. It is unclear if the orca storyline was inspired by Blackfish directly, but the in-universe article describes orcas as friendly and easy to train, but still partly wild and not to be treated lightly. It should be noted that both the referenced Ringling Bros and Barnum and Bailey animal shows and the SeaWorld orca shows have been shut down after being exposed for animal cruelty. When Ichigo first arrived in New York, she worried about getting lost, feeling homesick, and being stuck behind a language barrier, but thanks to her generous host family and the comfort she carried in the form of a letter from Aoi, none of her concerns came true. She had fun in America, and in between her newsworthy activities, she had many diverse experiences. From musical endeavors like joining a gospel choir, entering street dance contests, and duetting with famous guitarists, to more athletic activities like surfing, military-style boot camp, and cleaning the Statue of Liberty. She visited LA, Miami, Washington, D.C., and of course, New York City. Wherever she went, she attracted attention for her positive attitude and endless determination. These experiences prove two things about Ichigo. It proves that she is capable of being independent and forging a path of her own outside of the influence of her family, friends, or Mizuki. But it also proves how important her friends are to her, specifically Aoi. The reason Ichigo is able to be so independent and carefree is because she knows that no matter how far apart they are, she can still rely on her friends. Series director Ichi Kimura told Animage that Ichigo's time in America was like training as a samurai, meeting all kinds of people and traveling to many places by herself. After a year of this samurai-style training, in which she gained a massive boost in skill, self-confidence, and global popularity, she decided that she was ready to go home. Ichigo returns to Japan in the middle of a showdown between Starlight Academy and a new rival school, Dream Academy. She is stronger, more confident, and more excited about her work than ever. She is happy to rejoin her friends and still looking forward to performing with Mizuki again one day. But Dream Academy introduces a new rival in the form of Seira, whose skill level intimidates Starlight Academy despite having only just made her debut at the showdown stage itself. While everyone gravely anticipates Aoi's chances of beating her, Ichigo only feels excited to try. Aoi asks Ichigo to perform in her place, and Ichigo's battle with Seira ends in a draw. Although Seira is clearly serious about their competition, Ichigo meets her competitiveness with her usual playful attitude. As their third year of middle school progresses, Ichigo takes time to reconnect with all of her friends and strengthen their shared bonds. Because Mizuki has disappeared from the public eye over the past year, Ichigo also takes the first opportunity she gets to search for her. When they finally reunite, Mizuki tells Ichigo that she has secretly been working as a consultant at Dream Academy. She also agrees that she and Ichigo are still friends, and says that she hadn't welcomed her back to Japan yet because she wanted to do it in person. Knowing that Mizuki is involved makes Ichigo even more curious about Dream Academy and, by extension, Seira. Ichigo and Seira both come from restaurant-owning families, their younger siblings are close friends, and they share a passion for making people smile through their performances. Yet their personalities are very different, with Seira being more reserved and competitive. Ichigo goes out of her way to investigate and befriend several Dream Academy students, and Seira interprets her efforts as an extension of their previous rivalry. Seira and Ichigo continue to find opportunities to compete, but even when Ichigo loses, Seira doesn't feel any sense of victory. Ichigo always prioritizes fun and never slows down even after a loss. Her endless passion motivates Seira to continue competing against her, but Ichigo's friendly responses confuse her. Eventually, when they are each once again charged with representing their schools in a competition, Seira realizes the key difference between them. While Seira had felt responsible for carrying her school's expectations alone, Ichigo didn't hesitate to include her friends in her performance. To Ichigo, more idols on stage translated to more fun for the audience, and with friends to rely on, she had nothing to worry about. Once Seira understands this, she is able to internalize Ichigo's cooperative spirit and begin cultivating her own deep friendships as well. These activities propel Ichigo and her friends through their middle school graduation and into Starlight Academy's high school division. Mizuki makes her official comeback under her own agency after leaving her consultant role at Dream Academy, and Ichigo is amazed by how much she has changed despite feeling so familiar. Ichigo, Aoi, and Ron's first job upon entering high school is serving as judges for Starlight Academy's audition caravan. They are responsible for overseeing hundreds of auditions and selecting new middle school students, one of which is handpicked by Ichigo despite Aoi and Ron initially not seeing her appeal. That student is Akari, and I'll save the bulk of Ichigo's story with her for the next intermission. For now though, we'll focus on what Akari reveals about Ichigo's character. Ichigo is first prompted to take responsibility for Akari by Seira and Ki, Seira's producer. Ki reframes Ichigo's gut instinct to select Akari as Ichigo's desire to produce her, in other words, to shape and guide her based on her potential. Ichigo agrees with them and uses her early experiences with Mizuki as the foundation for her efforts to help Akari. She invites Akari to perform with her at her concert, gives her advanced training, and reminds her that she shines in her own way. Her approach is much softer than Mizuki's, and she allows Akari to get close to her, but her friendliness still leaves a sizable gap between their inherent skill levels. For better or worse, Ichigo's mentorship of Akari draws another invisible line between her and Mizuki. After seeing news coverage about the Starlight Caravan audition and Akari's unlikely acceptance, Mizuki finds Ichigo to ask if she was the one who selected Akari. When Ichigo says yes, Mizuki compares Ichigo's relationship to Akari to their own early relationship. She tells her that just like Ichigo is constantly learning from Akari, Mizuki is using what she learned from Ichigo to start a new chapter in her career. She then reveals that she is debuting under a new unit as a new version of herself, and Ichigo is the first person she's told. This news surprises Ichigo because although she is grateful to be so trusted by Mizuki, she still dreams of being her partner. But to Mizuki, Ichigo's ability to select and produce a brand new idol herself is a sign that their paths run parallel to each other, as rivals rather than collaborators. Ichigo left Starlight Academy to find her own path, and Mizuki had decided long ago that it was time for her to build her own partner from scratch. In a rejection that pains me to this day, Mizuki stops herself from saying what Ichigo means to her, tells Ichigo that her destined partner is still out there, and gives her a cryptic invitation to see her new partner. With all of her friends in tow, Ichigo visits Mizuki's new agency and observes Mikuru, Mizuki's new unit member. Ichigo is confused by their relaxed dynamic, but appreciates how happy Mizuki seems in her new environment. She admits that she doesn't understand why Mizuki chose Mikuru, especially since Mikuru is only an idol part-time, but looks forward to their debut as Double M since it means that Mizuki will be returning to the stage. With so much activity between Starlight Academy and Dream Academy, the two schools hold a joint tournament called the Partners Cup for two-person units to compete in. Although the competition is meant to encourage collaboration between students from each school, it is open to outside entrants. Double M announced their debut soon after and immediately state their intention to enter the tournament. Ichigo is once again the only person left excited rather than worried about the appearance of a strong new rival. She's impressed by Mikuru, just like she was impressed by Sarah, and focuses on following Mizuki's remaining guidance for her, finding her own destined partner. She begins her search with an open mind, considering literally everyone at Dream Academy before gradually narrowing her search down to her friends. Aoi, Ki, Ran, Otome, Yurika, and Sarah all make her shortlist, but Aoi suggests that she choose Sarah. Ichigo greatly admires Sarah's cool personality and offers her a friendly invitation to become partners. When Sarah accepts but retains her competitive spirit, Ichigo playfully matches her energy. With the pairings for the tournament set, Ichigo and Sarah begin working together directly. Between Ichigo's attachment to Mizuki and Sarah's determination to beat Double M, they become fixated on the idea of matching Double M's natural chemistry. Ichigo and Sarah visit Double M's agency to ask them how they became such close partners, but Double M's meet-cute stories and long history only make them feel like they lack compatibility in comparison. They still feel motivated to do their best, but Sarah doubts their chances of winning, and Ichigo has to reassure her with pure determination. This loss of confidence has a major effect on both Sarah and Ichigo, who have both incorrectly internalized that voicing their insecurities to each other would be an admission that they aren't perfect partners. It takes Aoi and Ki to help them communicate with each other, and they realize that they share a fear of holding each other back because of their differing personalities. They work out that comparing themselves to Double M is what was actually holding them back, and agree to have fun in their own way. They lose to Double M in the tournament, but are able to overcome their disappointment and focus on how much fun they had on stage. In response, Mizuki recognizes them as Double M's rivals. However, Mizuki's next challenge is not to Ichigo and Sarah, but Soleil. This challenge is mainly to catch public attention and attract new idol fans through spectacle, but Mizuki also intends to strengthen Double M through competition. As for Mizuki's choice being Soleil, the unit represents both Starlight Academy and Ichigo's strongest friendships. To Mizuki, beating Soleil with her own independent unit will allow her to surpass her old school, and since she has already beaten Ichigo in the Partners Cup, she's giving her a second chance in case her performance was affected by not having Aoi and Ran with her. This time, Mizuki will be able to more accurately gauge where Ichigo stands in comparison to her. Unfortunately, Soleil has been on hiatus since Ichigo left for America, and they are incredibly short on free time to practice. Still, Ichigo convinces Aoi and Ran to accept Double M's challenge, and the unit is revived. The showdown concert arrives, and Soleil gives their best ever performance despite Ichigo making a small mistake due to limited practice time. In fact, their performance is so good that it inspires Mikuru and motivates Double M to do even better. This grants Double M the win, and they credit Soleil with firing them up. After the competition, Soleil and Double M are both considered to be on track to surpassing even legendary unit Masquerade. Soleil continues training together until Starlight Academy and Dream Academy announce a new event, the Aikatsu 8 election. This election allows fans to vote for their favorite idol to join a temporary group called Aikatsu 8 and go on a summer tour across Japan. The election includes independent units like Double M, heightening the level of competition. After a short voting period, Ichigo and Sarah make it into Aikatsu 8 alongside Mizuki and Mikuru. Sarah is at the bottom of the ranking in 8th place, Mikuru is in the middle at 4th, and Ichigo and Mizuki take 2nd and 1st respectively. Ichigo is happy to still be able to text Aoi and Ran over the summer and gravitates towards Sarah as the tour kicks off. Mizuki is in charge of production for the tour, and Ichigo is once again filled with admiration for her well-rounded skill set. When Mizuki reveals that she's ordered food from Ichigo's own family restaurant to help her feel more comfortable, Ichigo feels emboldened to ask for a private talk with her. Ichigo has been trying to figure out Mizuki's overall goal since leaving Starlight Academy, and Mizuki finally reveals that she wants to energize all of Japan and lift the whole country's spirits through idol work. Leaving Starlight Academy allowed her to observe idols from an outside perspective, and she found that their work still had a long way to go to reach people who still suffered from negative feelings. In order to improve idols and reach more people, she needs to encourage a greater level of competition amongst her peers, while also creating larger and larger public spectacles. The large scale of Mizuki's vision amazes Ichigo, who is ashamed to admit that she hasn't thought about the future of idols. Mizuki asks her to think more about her answer, and Ichigo devotes herself to coming up with one by the end of the tour. She asks Sarah for her opinion, but Sarah doesn't have any ideas either. Instead, she promises to help Ichigo think of an answer that will satisfy Mizuki. Ichigo recruits Aoi to help as well, but she finds her conclusion while watching Mizuki and Mikuru from the wings during their final performance. She explains to Sarah that no matter how many idols are on stage, her eye is always drawn to Mizuki, and she assumes that everyone else feels the same. Because Mizuki is always in front, leading the way, Ichigo concludes that the future of idols must lie beyond her. Sarah agrees, and she and Ichigo decide to surpass Double M together. Ichigo announces this to Mizuki at the end of the tour, saying that they plan to defeat Double M by September. September is only a couple of months away, and Mizuki is pleased with this challenge. Rather than refuting Ichigo's bold claim, she agrees that it won't be long before they stand on stage together again. After the Aikatsu 8 tour ends, Double M announces a new tournament, the Twinkle Star Cup. This time they challenge both Starlight Academy and Dream Academy, requesting a battle with a unit made up of a representative from each school. Sarah's popularity has exploded after her Aikatsu 8 win, and she and Ichigo are chosen as Double M's challengers because they match Mizuki and Mikuru in popularity. However, Ichigo and Sarah are still under the impression that they need to be just as synchronized as Double M in order to beat them. Aoi and Ki immediately start planning bonding activities for Ichigo and Sarah, hoping to strengthen their confidence in their chemistry and prove that their differences are actually their best advantage. It takes a lot of effort, but Ichigo and Sarah each learn to appreciate each other's differences in their own way. For Ichigo, it's about becoming an exciting pairing for their fans. For Sarah, it's about the creative potential of combining their strengths. They get a formal unit debut concert, and Sarah comes up with their unit name, Twings. As Ichigo and Sarah devote their time to training and becoming closer, publicity for the Twinkle Star Cup is picking up steam. Mizuki's plan to attract new fans is working, even though Double M has clarified that they view Twings as equals rather than challengers. They even convinced Dream Academy to construct a stadium even larger than the largest one ever sold out by Masquerade, a clear benchmark to tangibly measure their success. But before the tournament can even begin, Double M makes a shocking announcement that they will disband after the competition, making this performance their last. Upon hearing this, Ichigo expresses her trust in Mizuki and belief that the disbandment must be for a good reason. It motivates her to do her best to give Double M a stage and final battle that they can be proud of. Still, Ichigo and Sarah are both curious to know the exact reason for the disbandment and decide to ask Double M directly. When they learn that Mikuru is planning to go on hiatus as an idol and pursue her main passion, gardening, instead, they're happy for her. Ichigo asks Mizuki what she'll do next, but Mizuki is only focused on the Twinkle Star Cup and can't give a clear answer yet. Mikuru's decision to follow multiple dreams leaves Ichigo and Sarah to reflect on the importance of having multiple goals. They give Double M their support and are moved to speechlessness by their final performance. This time, when Sarah expresses doubts for their chances of winning, she's speaking for both of them. And when Ichigo expresses determination, she's speaking for both of them as well. In this way, their mindsets are finally aligned. When their friends find them to cheer them up before their performance, they are immersed in a conversation about all the things they want to do in the future, reveling in each other's ambitions. Before they go on stage, they express how glad they are that they met and became partners and rivals. And Ichigo finally reciprocates Sarah's competitive spirit as they compete to see who can excite the audience more. Thanks to Double M's inspiring performance and their perfected partnership, Twings wins the Twinkle Star Cup. Double M is shocked, but still congratulates them. Ichigo says she was able to focus on competing with Sarah, and Mizuki is moved when she says that next will be a new start. Mizuki presents Twings with their trophy, and after seeing how passionate Ichigo is, Mizuki says that her hopes for the future are once again on her. After winning the Twinkle Star Cup, Ichigo and Sarah end their activities as twins and return to their solo work. Ichigo has become more serious about their rivalry, and they still share a desire to team up again someday. Ichigo's goal of surpassing Mizuki still remains to be realized, but Ichigo is happy to have Mizuki shining down on her. She still sees her as an unreachable ideal that motivates her to keep aiming higher. Ichigo resumes her normal activities, promoting with Soleil, hosting her own radio show, and other standard idol work. Things change when Headmistress Orihime offers Ichigo a super live event, a giant concert for her to design from the ground up. She offers Aoi and Ron leadership roles in the project as well so that they can support Ichigo, and despite their busy schedules they agree. Orihime is planning to push Ichigo to the next level of her career, and so has chosen to hold the concert in the same venue as the Mizuki concert that first inspired Ichigo. She offered Mizuki a place in the lineup as well, but Mizuki declined. Preparations for the concert start immediately, and Ichigo announces its concept to be setting off toward a wonderful future. All of her friends, including Akari, volunteer for spots on the concert production team, and she repays them by giving them onstage roles as well. In order to make her concert satisfying, Ichigo decides that she wants to perform a new song that her audience will remember, just like how she still remembers Mizuki's performance of Move On Now. After a brief search, Ichigo ends up requesting her song from a singer-songwriter named Kanan who specializes in love songs. Kanan is unsure about writing a song for someone else, but Ichigo, Aoi, and Ron are able to inspire her to collaborate with them. Ichigo is excited to see what she comes up with and hopes that Mizuki will be able to attend the concert to see the song's debut. That night, Mizuki texts Ichigo to invite her to talk at the concert venue the next day. There, she congratulates Ichigo but rejects her request to join her on stage. Instead, she admits that she's thinking of retiring from her idol career. Ichigo is devastated by this news, but Mizuki goes on to say that she feels burned out after the Twinkle Star Cup, and that she feels like she's fulfilled her duty to advance the idol world. Being the top idol for so long has taken a lot of work, and she wants Ichigo to maximize her concert's potential and surpass her in the idol rankings. Ichigo refuses to accept this at first, but Mizuki tells her that she's been waiting for Ichigo to take her title since she first saw her. She tells Ichigo to create her era, leaving Ichigo speechless and confused. Ichigo is able to lean on the full support of Aoi and Ron to process this news, and admits that she couldn't bring herself to stop Mizuki because she seemed to have already made up her mind. But although she is sad that Mizuki rejected her invitation to perform together, she still wants to put on the best show possible just in case Mizuki attends. Ichigo is more serious than optimistic for once, but she wants to let Mizuki share her retirement news herself and puts on a smile for all of her friends helping her so they don't suspect that something is wrong. Ichigo is the project lead and coordinating producer for the concert and refocuses on making sure that all of her friends have fun with her on stage. She wants Mizuki to see her at her absolute best, and that means making sure that everyone else is shining alongside her. When Kanan arrives to present the first draft of Ichigo's new song, Ichigo is dissatisfied with the vagueness of its message. Kanan picks up on the fact that Ichigo has someone specific she wants to express her feelings toward, and Ichigo explains how important Mizuki has become to her. Kanan can empathize with her and promises to write her a love song that will express her wish for Mizuki to have a wonderful future as well. As a side note, according to both series director Ryuichi Kimura and head of series composition Yoichi Kato in an interview with Animage, this revision story beat reflects a real conversation between Mr. Kimura and the movie's music team. After receiving the first draft of Ichigo's concert song, he specifically requested that the song be turned into a love song for Mizuki, and decided to include the conversation in the final draft of the movie script. As Ichigo's concert approaches, she becomes saddened by Mizuki's lack of communication since their conversation about her retirement. Ichigo excuses her absence as Mizuki being too busy to respond, but has to force a smile to Aoi, Ron, and Akari to hide her disappointment. On the day of the concert, she's surprised when Akari promises to find Mizuki and bring her to the venue. The concert begins with only a few minor complications, and Akari succeeds in delivering Mizuki just in time for Ichigo to perform her new song. Before Ichigo goes on stage, she tells Kanan, "Your new lyrics embody my feelings fully. I realized something after reading them, that even when I'm up on stage alone, I can feel Mizuki supporting me." She thanks her fans, her friends, and Mizuki, not knowing if she's in the audience or not, and performs Etude of Radiance. It's a ballad about a love so radiant it makes every day feel beautiful and paves the way toward a warm future. After hearing the song, Mizuki admits to Akari that she had been afraid to face Ichigo's new era head-on, but is glad that she made it in time to see it. Akari and Orihime convince Mizuki to join Ichigo for the encore performance, and she brings Akari along with her out of gratitude. Ichigo is happy to see Akari appear on stage, but is shocked and overjoyed to see Mizuki. As the encore ends, the idol rankings update to show that Ichigo has officially surpassed Mizuki and taken her long-held title of top idol. Even after the concert ends and everyone congratulates Ichigo, she is most affected by Mizuki's praise. She respectfully thanks Mizuki for coming, and when Mizuki says Akari was responsible, Ichigo thanks her as well. Mizuki summons them both to the stage to talk privately, and Ichigo maintains a respectful attitude even as Mizuki becomes more relaxed. Mizuki compliments Ichigo's new song, and Ichigo confesses that it was a love song. Mizuki already knows this, and tells her that she accepts it. She goes on to tell Ichigo that her performance gave her the will to continue as an idol, and praises Ichigo for finally catching up to her. She also promises to take her title back if Ichigo ever loses focus, citing the responsibility of the top idol to raise all of her peers along with her. Now that Ichigo has earned that responsibility through her own hard work, Mizuki is finally able to dream freely again. Ichigo responds that Mizuki is the one who gave her her dream, and Mizuki tells her to give it even greater wings than she ever could. Filled with inspiration, Ichigo offers the same dream to Akari. When the three of them return to the group to celebrate, Ichigo is finally able to close the physical gap between herself and Mizuki, and promises to wait as long as it takes for Akari to reach her too. In the background of Ichigo's story so far has been her developing relationship with Akari, which I've left until now to better illustrate the transition between Ichigo's generation and Akari's. Akari first appeared during the Starlight Academy audition caravan as a mega fan of Ichigo. She lacks skill, but her earnestness catches Ichigo's attention, and Ichigo convinces Aoi and Ron to accept her based on her potential. As we know, Ichigo then goes on to give Akari Mizuki-style training as a form of mentorship. However, unlike Mizuki, Ichigo doesn't have any grand ambitions for Akari. She is flattered by Akari's admiration of her, but wants to see what kind of idol she becomes on her own. When Akari begins to distance herself from Ichigo, Ichigo supports her choices. But despite the advanced training, Akari still lacks skill and is sent to a harsh boot camp course to prove that she can keep up with her peers. Ichigo is surprised by this and goes out of her way to visit Akari at boot camp and teach her that she can rely on the people around her. After Ichigo, Aoi, and Ron spend a couple of days supporting the bootcamp students, Ichigo accepts Akari's request to perform with her again. While training for the Twinkle Star Cup, Ichigo finds herself alone in the dorms as Ron and Aoi have both gone abroad for work. Their teacher, Johnny, is concerned about Akari's progress and asks Ichigo to offer her support. He and Seira point out that Akari lacks Ichigo's natural talent for performing, and Ichigo realizes that Akari's struggles feel completely foreign to her. She decides to talk to Akari first, but Akari insists that everything is fine. Ichigo accepts her answer, but later regrets not saying more to help her. In an effort to understand what Akari is going through, Ichigo tries to remember a time when she struggled in the same way. She thinks about her time in America, but fails to recall anything that made her feel truly dispirited. She was always able to imagine what Aoi might have written in the letter she carried with her. Just knowing that Aoi cared enough to give her a supportive letter had always been enough to cheer her up, and she'd never actually needed to open it. Since Ichigo can't think of anything to say to Akari herself, she decides to open the letter and see what Aoi would have said to someone who was struggling. After reading it, Ichigo finds Akari to try talking with her again. The first part of the letter had been Aoi's phone number and offered to call at any time, so Ichigo first offers to listen to anything Akari wants to say. This gets through to her, and she admits that she doubts her own potential despite Ichigo believing in her. Ichigo reassures her that her potential is still there and watches over her training while praising her progress. She repeats Aoi's letter to Akari, in which Aoi reassured Ichigo that even if she failed to shine in America, she was still a shining star in Aoi's eyes. Ichigo goes on to emphasize the importance of gradual progress and reminds her that she has everyone's support. With this advice, Akari is finally able to make a breakthrough. After the Twinkle Star Cup, Akari's feelings have grown so strong that she begins to avoid Ichigo for fear of falling back into her old obsession. Ichigo successfully chases her down and again reassures her that it's normal to feel admiration for the people that inspire her. Akari goes on to shadow Ichigo for a day just like Ichigo once did with Mizuki, and Ichigo goes out of her way to support Akari's new roommate, Sumire. Ichigo continues to keep an eye on Akari and her friends, eventually accepting their request to help promote her concert. By the end of the concert, Ichigo had solidified her view of Akari as her own successor, just as she was Mizuki's. With her goal of surpassing Mizuki achieved and the beginning of her new role as top idol, Ichigo begins to develop her other ambitions. Mizuki had often described being top idol as an isolating experience, but Ichigo's bond with Aoi and Ron is so strong that she is able to share the responsibility of elevating the idol world with them. They decide to prioritize their shared dream of keeping Soleil going forever, and plan a 6-month nationwide tour in order to boost their popularity as a unit. Their plan succeeds when the Aikatsu 8 election returns in the middle of their tour, and all 3 Soleil members make it into the lineup. This time, Ichigo is in first place, Mizuki is in second, Ron is third, and Aoi is fourth. Akari also makes it into 8th place. The Soleil members are now on both their own tour and the Aikatsu 8 tour, but they still have one more event planned, the Great Starlight School Festival, hosted by Starlight Academy. This festival is a tournament meant to determine the best 3-member unit in Japan. Soleil is able to win this tournament after defeating 9 other units, including Mizuki's revived TriStar. After solidifying themselves as a legendary idol group, Soleil gains enough momentum to sustain further group activities. They still have individual work, but all of them are able to make enough time for Soleil. As for Ichigo, she is still shown to have a close relationship with Mizuki and takes pride in guiding Akari. When Akari wins the Starlight Queen Cup, Ichigo is even included in her victory ceremony. It is clear that Akari has grown after such a major accomplishment, so Ichigo decides that it's time to begin testing her abilities. She agrees to hold a joint concert between Soleil and Akari's unit, Luminous, and then proposes a marathon race for an additional gift on Akari's birthday. Because Ichigo is known for her extreme stamina and constant running, this marathon is both an athletic and symbolic challenge. In order to win, Akari will have to show Ichigo that she has put in the same hard work and training as Ichigo to literally catch up to her. After a close race, Akari wins. Ichigo lets her choose any gift she wants as a reward, and Akari asks to form a unit with her. Since Ichigo no longer has any reason to doubt Akari's ability to keep up with her, she accepts. The two of them train together from April until October, and finally debut under the name Cosmos as the kickoff to another 6-month tour. Before the tour begins, Ichigo, Aoi, and Ron reflect on the fact that the Cosmos tour will last right up to their high school graduation. Soleil has been going strong, so Ichigo hasn't thought about graduation at all. Now that it's just around the corner, she begins to question what kind of idol she wants to be after she graduates. She knows that she wants to live with Aoi and Ron, but Aoi's plan to go to America for college forces her to reimagine what her adult life will be like. Ichigo, Aoi, and Ron agree to put Soleil on hiatus while Aoi continues her education, with their graduation concert planned to be their last performance. They also promise to revive Soleil once they have all powered up as their new selves. Faced with the departure of her closest friend, Ichigo resolves to become an idol that people look forward to seeing again. Ichigo has a long history of temporary goodbyes, from her father's work trips to her own travels in America, to Mizuki's absences and all the small work trips of her own in between, so saying goodbye to Aoi doesn't scare her. She has faith in their friendship and is able to imagine how sweet their eventual reunion will be. That's why instead of feeling sad, she's able to focus on her goal of inspiring other people to be just as optimistic about their own futures. When the Cosmos tour ends and Soleil is on stage at their graduation concert, Ichigo explains the secret to her resilience. When you give every day your best effort, you can look back and see your old self supporting you. Whether the past is happy or sad, your present self is proof that your past self cared about you, that it got you here and loves you and wants you to go on to see a bright future. And when you look to the future and imagine your future self looking back at you, you can send all of that love and support right back. That is love you can always rely on. It's how you find the will to do your best today to give yourself a brighter future. It's how you find the strength to extend love to others as well. We may not all be as lucky as Ichigo, but it's never too late to accept the love your past self wants you to have. The next time we see Ichigo is 3.5 years later, when she's in the middle of planning a solo concert. She has been on non-stop tours since graduating from high school, and although she still lights up a room, she also commands a lot of respect among staff thanks to her experience. She lives with Ron, and they are still close with all of their friends from school, including Aoi, who they still call regularly. The three of them still find comfort in their graduation song, My Star Way, and listen to it for inspiration. They may all be on their own paths, but when Aoi graduates from college and returns to Japan 6 months later, they reunite at Starlight Academy and follow through on their promise to revive Soleil. From there, we can only assume that they have the brightest of futures. Thank you so much for watching. Tell me what you love about Ichigo in the comments below, and look out for my appeal ranking next week. Ichigo is my all-time favorite character, and I've wanted to make this video for over a year now. I'm so happy to finally talk about her with all of you, so make sure to leave a comment. Bye bye!